Hey everyone, Tracy here. Thanks so much for joining me on my YouTube channel. And if you're new here, I would love to say hello. So please leave a comment and a hi in the comments below. And if you are new, I am an Australian artist. I've been painting for about 25 years now, and I also run online classes and workshops and retreats all over the world. I think I've done about 105 workshops and retreats now, and I'm off very soon to Europe to run several more in some beautiful locations in Italy and Spain. One of the main things about being an artist is to see the world a little differently. All of us have a unique perspective, and as a creative, we're able to take that perspective and lay it out in a different way, depending on what mediums we use, whether it's paint, whether it's mixed media, whether it's the written word. We can help others to see the world in the way that we do. And one of the things that inspires me the most is to collect and peruse and read and reread art books, whether they're books that are actually portfolios of artists' work, whether they're stories of the artist's life, whether they're instructional books. I have hundreds and hundreds of art books, and I thought I'd share a few with you today, a few of my favorite. So I'm going to just move this pile. I'm going to share 10 books with you. And the first one is A Shared Obsession, Margaret Olley and Fred Jessup. Now, Margaret Olley is one of Australia's most renowned still life painters, and she passed away in 2011. And this is also a little bit about Fred Jessup, who was Margaret Olley's lifelong friend, and just their friendship and the ways that their life kind of intertwined. And one of the things that first struck me about Margaret Olley, you always saw these really iconic photos of her home studio, and you just look how beautiful this is. Okay, if you're not into clutter, if you're not a collector, this might be a little bit too much. It's not for the minimalist, I can say that. But like just everything here at her fingertips to create all of the beautiful still lifes that she created. And when she passed, I believe that there was another artist. Let me just see if I can find whether that information is in here. Another artist who recreated her studio. Yes, here it is. Okay. So there was an exhibition called A Shared Obsession, the name of this book, Margaret Olley and Fred Jessup. And in that exhibition, there was a recreation of her home studio as the ultimate portrait of the artist, comprised of an estimated 21,000 objects. Isn't that amazing? Wow. It's a powerful means through which we can come to know Olley and her paintings. So these are some of the recreations here of all of the little bits and pieces. I can so relate to this. I have so many collectibles that we bring home with us from our travels. And it's just brilliant to be able to pull them together to create your own still lives. So beautiful painterly work, beautiful use of colour, and a long, long career. I love it that so many artists seem to live a long life. Gorgeous sketches. So this one is Fred Jessup. This one is Margaret Olley. Very iconically Australian, this one. Fred Jessup returned. He was in Australia for a while, and then he returned to Europe. And he would come from time to time to visit with Margaret Olley. So this is really just a beautiful book kind of documenting both of their lives and their works and how they kind of intertwined together. But there's some just luscious paintings in here. So, one of the ways that I find inspiration from artist books is sometimes to recreate a painting or to use something within a painting as a jumping off point to begin an exploration of my own. So there's just so many ways that you can find inspiration from books like this. Okay, my second book is Tim Braden, who is a UK artist, and this book is called Looking and Painting. I have a feeling that this one might have been introduced to me by Sandy Hester on her YouTube channel. I definitely know the book on Mary Fedden was one that I bought after watching one of her episodes. But this one, I looked up Tim Braden on Instagram, and I just instantly loved the dynamic color and compositions of his work. These like beautiful pops of hot pinks and reds amongst the more muted, more pushed back greens and blues. The figurative work that's not so precise, that's just like bringing you into the painting, but without any detail, you know, that really, really attracted me. I also love his use, like you can see, the main thing I love is his use of color. And I had one more book. I'm going to have to do 11. I was just talking about color. And so I'm going to bring another one in as well. Okay, so I love his use of color. I love his use of negative space. So you can see here a lot where he actually paints around the figure and only comes into the figure just a little bit. Up here, you've got the negative space of the stools. So that I really love. I love his brushstrokes. I love his gestural marks. I love the rawness of the canvas and being able to see through the canvas in some parts. And there's just so many beautiful, beautiful works in here to be inspired by. Another thing that is a great kind of jumping off point, if you're feeling stuck, I mean, going into an artist book is a surefire, guaranteed way to just make you want to like just close the book and jump into painting, you know? So sometimes I'll just peruse through a few pages and I'll be like, I got to paint. So it might be a palette that I see. So I might see a palette like this and, you know, immediately just jump off and try and find, what do I have in those colors? What could I make in this color palette? So just so many different ways. So his work kind of hovers between abstraction and semi-abstraction. So it's almost, it feels to me like almost like the works that he do that are more figurative, the works that he does. I've just come off being sick with COVID for a week and I feel like my brain is not quite in gear yet. So the works that he does that are more figurative, they have all this beautiful light, which a lot of it is created by those negative spaces, gorgeous shadow work. But I feel like the abstracts that he does almost look like he has zoomed in to some of his larger works to find just a small area that he can then create as an abstract painting. That's what it feels like to me. Like if I zoomed out from this painting, I feel like I would actually see a scene. I'd actually see something that I recognized. And I love that technique. I actually did that as a tutorial in my Jump into Abstract Painting online class, which is a little mini class that I have on my website. And I took some photos that I had taken myself in Rio Maggiore in Italy, and then I zoomed into some areas of that photo, that one particular photo, which I believe was down by the water with some boats. We were sitting in a restaurant. And anyway, when I zoomed in, I came up with 4 beautiful abstract pieces just from zooming into that one photo. So that's a fabulous kind of way. So you can see here, it does feel like he's just zoomed into one of his larger paintings to create the abstract. I also love the white space in between. I feel like that gives a lot of energy and life to a painting. So I always try to think about that as well. Just the negative space, the negative shape painting, the importance of these negative shapes, and then the white space that's left, I think is, one of the things that makes his work so successful and so appealing to me anyway. Now he doesn't leave white space in every painting. Some paintings are quite dark. I tend to be attracted to work that has a high contrast between light and dark. And in my own work also, I feel like if if I'm painting in a way that's too mid-tone, I always feel the need to like push the lights and darks. Look at this gorgeous, look at that. That's beautiful. It's a stunning piece. Very inspiring, very inspiring. And then the way that he juxtaposes his works, you know, where he has this piece here, the interior, and then this one here next to it, kind of colors echoing off each other. And there's a movement in his work that is really intriguing to me. So, you know, thinking about when you're painting, the way that the eye moves through the work. And I feel like these three actually are working together so that the eye kind of moves from one to the other to the other. But they also work on their own. So he's really, you know, a master at composition. So definitely I would suggest this is a great book to pick up. Lots and lots of inspiration in here. I won't go through the whole thing. He also draws a lot on history, on historical books, on actual historical photographs, and he often gives a nod to some of the artists that have come before us as well. So this one is called Collector's House Matisse. So I'm not sure whether that's actually a part of a Matisse painting that he's done a painting of. I'm not sure, but yeah, you'll see often in his work. So beautiful. This is gorgeous. See, this is the kind of, if I was to do interiors, and my mind is still a bit boggled about doing interiors, it gets really overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that's in a room. Like I've tried to do our interiors in our house. Our house is very colorful and it's like super inspiring, but I haven't yet figured out a way to simplify to the point where I don't get overwhelmed by the amount of detail. And I think that's why I'm so attracted to his work. Like there's detail in here in sections, but then there are other sections where he's just allowed it to be much more simplified. And I think that's what I'm looking to do. And that's why I'm so attracted to his work. All right, so another artist that I love, so I've just pulled this one in, and this is Ken Doan. Let me see, bring you down a little bit closer. I have to remember to take you back out again though when I do the next book. So Ken Doan, another Australian artist, has been around for years, had a hugely successful run in, I think, the 80s, but he was also kind of cast out from the art world at the time as well because of what was seen as his commercializing of his art, was seen as kind of selling out, which I never kind of bought into that. I just thought, good for you, go for it. If people in Japan want to have your paintings on their bags and towels and bikinis and things like that, all power to you. And so I follow Ken on Instagram now, and I just love he's always just honest and authentic. And he is really, again, you know, a master of color. His later works now are becoming more and more abstract. These are some of his early works here. This one, again, is circa 1984, this one. So that was when he was really kind of, I guess, at the peak of his career, and was doing, you know, lots and lots of international work, and licensing his work on products. Again, 1985. So, you know, at that time, lots and lots of color, vibrancy, kind of, what would you call it? Kind of almost like a naive art in a way. So the reef has come up time and time again in his work. And then as time goes on, he begins to kind of become a little bit more abstracted with his depictions of the reef. And I just, like, this is beautiful. Look at this, playing on a magenta reef, 1991, this one. And just his choices and his decision-making around color palette, around the composition, around the focal points. You know, it's really interesting to kind of analyze a work. So he has all of this bold, darker kind of area happening over here, all of these interesting shapes. Not so much happening over here, but then he does something like this where he adds in these little black and white fish here. Now, without those, the eye would have just been drawn over to this side and never come back to this side, right? So, you know, it's brilliant to just study works like this. If something stops you in your tracks, then you stop as well and just see if you can analyze what it is about the work. Like, I talk a lot about embracing the contrast, and I have a whole little free video on my website called Abstract Approaches, where actually it's on YouTube as well. Okay, you can actually just look it up here on my channel, where I talk about, you know, paying attention to contrast. So for example, most of this painting is organic shapes, but then he's got more of a structured. If you thought of what was the opposite to organic, then you might say structured, or you might say geometric or something like that. And so, you know, he has added in this kind of more structured geometric form as a counterpoint to the more organic and kind of crazy or frenzied fish down below. So that one's beautiful. There's so many, like, you can see that, you know, it's funny because I have a whole series called Sacred Waters, and I never thought that I was directly influenced by Ken Doan. But now that I have this book, I'm like, oh wow, it actually reminds me of some of the fish that I do, but maybe I'm just working in a similar way. Oh, look at this, drawings of things in the sea. How cool is that? See, that would be a great page to kind of, you know, draw from to try out materials in my sketchbook or to recreate some of those shapes. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. Swimming in Jellyfish Lake. I mean, to me, it just feels like that feeling, like, you know, when you're swimming in a lake and you know there are jellyfish around, it's just like that heightened kind of, is one going to touch me? And I can kind of sense that tension in this painting. So this is just a beautiful little book, just a mini book, and it covers all of his work that has anything to do with the ocean, underwater, fish, reef. Look at this beautiful dramatic work here with those really intense pops of magenta and hot pink and kind of electric yellow, and then everything else pushed back. That's so interesting because I do a similar thing in my sacred water paintings, but I often push back with or glaze over the background or the negative spaces with like a marine blue acrylic ink. And I've never been brave enough to do a really dark glaze like this, but I think I'm going to. I think, see, this makes me just want to jump off and go and find one of my canvases and just pull in a really deep, like a Payne's grey glaze around the outside of all the fish. Well, okay. So anyway, another beautiful book. Love, 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 love Ken Doan's work. You can follow him. He's in his 80s now. He's still painting every day. And his work is just sublime. This is just beautiful. Now, my interests are really wide at the moment. So as far as painting is concerned, this probably the directions that, you know, that I'm kind of heading in, or that I'm already in, I guess. But then I've also fallen in love with, let's pull you back out again, fallen in love with my sketchbook over the last year. And it's been a long time coming. As I said, I've been painting for 25 years, but I've never had a sketchbook practice, and I honestly didn't know what it was good for. And I recently had a student ask me, you know, what is a sketchbook good for? It feels like a waste of paper, or it feels like, you know, what are you doing this for if no one's going to see it or if you can't sell it? And I actually want to make a video for YouTube answering that question. I'm not sure whether I'll get to it before we leave for Europe because we're going in 11 days. But it's definitely something, maybe I'll even make one while I'm in Europe talking about how important a sketchbook is, because I have really benefited from keeping my sketchbook, keeping a regular practice going for the past year. It's a beautiful way to document the world, to document your journey. I don't know about you, but I've got a terrible memory, you know, when it comes to like coming back from a trip and a few years later, most of it will just seem like a blur. Whereas if I had sketched along the way, same as kind of taking photos in a way, like you take photos to remember, but it's the little things like, you know, sketching at a meal, you know, sketching just the small things in your hotel room, that type of thing, that'll kind of bring you right back into where you were at that time and really jog your brain to remember what was happening. So anyway, so David Gentleman, this is a book called Coastline, and it's all about the shores of Britain and fishing villages and oil rigs on the industrial coast. David Gentleman travelled anti-clockwise around the island, starting with the mudflats and sands of East Anglia, then moving north to the hush shipyards of the northeast and on to Scotland. Further around the northwest English coast and the furthest parts of Wales. So I'm an ocean person, so I'm drawn to anything about the ocean. I love it. We live by the ocean. We're 1 block away. And somehow I'm really drawn also to like the coast of Cornwall and Devon. Emily Powell, who's one of the artists that I also love, who's in here, she is in that area, and I've fallen in love with her fishing boat paintings, and I've been doing a few of my own from photos that I've taken. But the sketches in this book, this is just a beautiful, beautiful book to just sit and read with a cup of tea and to look at these sketches. Look, a sketch doesn't have to be a page filled. You know, this is so beautiful in its simplicity, just the wash of yellow, the wash of blue, and then just a little tiny bit of sketching. And he does that quite a bit. So he also uses negative space very well. There's another one in here somewhere that caught my eye earlier. A lot of watercolor washes and then pen and ink. But just really documenting that beautiful, beautiful coastline that I hope we can get back to soon. I did my DNA a couple of years ago, and I have quite a strong line that comes from down around the bottom of Cornwall, and then also another line that comes from a little town. So there was like generations of people in a little town, I believe it was called North Moulton in Devon. So like maybe about 10 generations of one line of my ancestral lines was from that town. So I'd love to go there and actually mosey around and see if any locals have the same last name that was in that line at that time. So look at this, just beautiful, beautiful use of white space again. And this one, see? Just gorgeous. All right, next one is Mary Fedden. So again, this was one that I was introduced to by Sandy Hester. And this one is Mary Fedden's Enigmas and Variations. And again, she's a still life artist, or was a still life artist. I think she passed away around about the same time as Margaret Olley, maybe within a year or so. But her work, the narrative of it, the storytelling aspects of it, it really, every painting seems to tell a story. And even the ones that are more, I guess, simple still lifes. See, I love this. This one reminds me of a painting that I did a few years back. I'd never heard of Mary Fedden at the time, and actually my painting doesn't look anything like that. But I did a painting of a woman that we met in Portugal, in Porto, who came out to feed the stray cats every night. And there are aspects of this painting, this beautiful old lady feeding the chickens, that really remind me of the painting that I did with the Portuguese woman and the cats. Her use of colour the dynamic, like there's a life to her paintings. Her flowers feel alive. There's a movement and just this sense of energy to them, don't you think? So again, just a beautiful, beautiful book to flip through. And then, if you wanted to, you could try out some of her color palettes, which are some of them quite unusual. Or take some elements and then create something new in your own sketchbook. So actually, kind of using other artists' work as a study for your own in your sketchbook is such a fantastic way to learn. I feel like it helps you to, not only helps you to get not inside somebody else's mind, but for me, if I try to do recreation of somebody else's work in my sketchbook, I always learn something from it. It's almost like you're channeling something, the soul or something of another artist, because, in actually dragging, like this is a detail from this painting here. Even if I tried to paint this, what comes first? What would I lay down first? What kind of brush would I use to get this beautiful kind of textural, scrapey feel? Obviously, this would be the last mark over the top. How do I get that texture? What materials would I have to use? Like, that's an exploration in itself to try and figure out what it is that an artist has done, and then try to physically do that yourself. I think when you do, it sticks in your brain, like new techniques will stick in your brain so much more having actually physically done them yourself. So lots and lots of beautiful still lifes. I love her play on perspective. There's a lot of flat perspective. There's a lot of mixed perspective where you're looking down or looking through at the same time. I love all of that play. I love her layering. And again, I think most of all, I love her narrative. I love looking into those paintings and wondering what the story is, what the relationship is between the figures. There's also some of her sketches in here, so it's nice to see also where people begin or how artists begin and how their work then, isn't this gorgeous? Just so beautiful. This gorgeous kind of drawing in of the cat and the large red flower, but then this kind of echo out here of the softer flower and the looks like a Burman cat there. So again, one of my favorites, this one. This one I picked up at a market in Melbourne. Just a few weeks ago, we went on a family holiday, and I was at the markets and there were a lot of secondhand books, and I found this one called Mirka and George. And I jumped on it because I absolutely love Mirka Mora's work. Now, I'm not sure when she passed away. It may have been around the same time as the others. Maybe there was a lot of checking out of artists in a similar time. But Mirka's was one of... Mirka and George were just such colourful, creative, fun people in the Melbourne scene. Here, this says it better than me. The impact of Mirka and George Mora on Australian art and food has been remarkable. Arriving in Melbourne in 1951 from Paris, they energised local society and transformed the culinary and artistic landscapes. Their apartment became a hub for the bohemian set, and their cafes and restaurants brimmed with sophisticated food, sexual intrigue, and creative endeavours. Mirka's distinctive art, now collected by major galleries, was a vital part of this heady mix. So I'll just give you a little flip through because I don't want to, I don't want this video to be like an hour long. And I also would like to leave a little bit of mystery. But what's beautiful about this book, and I haven't gotten all the way through it yet, it contains not only the story of their life, it contains photos of their home, of their restaurants, of the items that they had around them. And then it also contains photos of Mirka's artwork. I'm not sure where I got to because the camera shut down on me. Oh no. So anyway, I was just going through this book and just showing you a little bit. I don't want the video to go on for too long, but if you can get your hands on one of these, it is a beautiful book and I can't wait to actually sit down and read some more of it. Okay. This one, The Great Impressionist, I bought this at the Australian National Gallery years ago. And of course, it's just one that everybody should have in their collection. And it's got all of the great Impressionists in it, Monet and Manet and Daumier and Seurat. And, you know, all of these artists who paved the way, who kind of bridged the time from really traditional painting into the more kind of modern era of the early 1900s. So these were all the people that were kind of starting to explore light, starting to explore different applications in paint, and breaking away from the more traditional molds. So there's a lot to kind of see in here. Cézanne, Bonnard, I think I already said Bonnard. So this one has Picasso. Well, Picasso, I guess, wasn't really an impressionist. So I don't know why he's in there. Maybe the early years of Picasso. So yeah, another great one to have as reference in your art library. A very quick mention, I'll do another whole video on this, but kids' books, kids' illustrators are an amazing resource for reference, for inspiration, for practicing, for trying things out in your own sketchbook. And Eric Carle is one of my favorite. And of course, all of his works are collage, but collage with hand-painted papers, which is something I love to do as well. So this is one that I bought for Nora. Wink, wink, because I probably bought it as much for myself as I did for my granddaughter. This one is a beautiful book. I go back to it time and time again. It's Abstract and Colour Techniques in Painting, Claire Harrigan and Robin Capon. And the cover got me straight away. Just the colour application in this piece. Again, the semi-abstraction. The vibrancy of the colours, the contrast, the composition, all of the things, the kind of leaving some things unsaid, the looseness of the work. I've even taken notes in this one. See, I really like a book. If I start to write in the side, in the margins, you know that I'm really, really invested in a book. Look at this beautiful purples. I'm not very much of a purple person, but in this one, I love that. I guess it's more of a purplish blue against that yellow orange. Just gorgeous. These ones here. I think, you know, some influence from this book has crept into my work over the last, I think I've had this book for about 8 years, maybe a little bit less. When was it made? When was it made? When was it written? It was written in, oh yeah, it was written in 2007. This edition was 2013. So I've had it for a while. Yeah, I think some things have subconsciously crept into my work from this book because I have read it through and through many, many times. Love, love, love this. Beautiful. And again, you know, like if you're trying to figure out where you're at, you know, what's your color palette, what are the colors you're drawn to, spend some time looking through art books, even if you borrow them from the library, and take notes in your sketchbook or in your journal. What appeals to you? What lights you up? Dissect an image. What are the colors in this one? Make a page in your sketchbook where you squash. Oh my goodness. I cannot speak apparently today. Where you swatch all of the colors that you see or the closest colors you have to it, and build up a little section in your sketchbook that has different palettes that you're drawn to. Lots of beautiful texture in this work, lots of beautiful layering. Places I'd like to go to. So again, another favorite for sure, this one. So again, that is Abstract and Colour Techniques in Painting, Claire Harrigan and Robin Capon. And then just a couple of books that are more instructional, or this one is a little bit instructional as well. There aren't actual tutorials in here, but they do go into ways that they have created the paintings that are in there. This one is a lovely, lovely reference book that is instructional, that has tutorials, that has prompts. It's called One Watercolor a Day. I'm not a watercolorist, but I have used the exercises in this book with acrylic inks. And some of the exercises are fantastic to just loosen yourself up, to free yourself up. There's also a lot of valuable information in there about color wheels, about just different ways of paint application, of applying watercolors. But again, most of what's in here will translate to the use of acrylic inks as well. So just another really fun book to pick up and to have in your stash, in your art library. And then one last book, just being a bit cheeky here. Oh look, it's my book. This is my book, Paint Mojo. I'm not going to go through this book with you today because somewhere down below in one of my videos, not so long ago, there is a video, I think it's called Celebrate With Me, Paint Mojo, something like that, because this year, 2024, I'm celebrating 10 years since my book was released, and I do believe it's gone out to around 30,000, 35,000 homes around the world, and that's such an amazing thing for me to think about, that I've been able to touch the lives of, the creative lives of, inspire that many people. I've had so many beautiful messages and letters over the years from people who have really opened up their creative world from reading my book, from doing the exercises in it. So it is still available. You can check it out on Amazon or wherever you buy books from. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope I didn't ramble on for too long. I hope I didn't miss too much when the camera cut out. And I am probably going to head inside now because it's 4:20. And as I said, I have been down with COVID for a week. This is my first day back at work and I'm starting to lose a little bit of steam. I think the couch is calling me and the fire is calling me. And I think I might just take one of these books inside and go and have a little read. Maybe this one. Okay, bye for now.